Okay, I think the microphone's working now. Okay, so we're talking about travel graphs. Now, travel graphs are essentially just a representation of someone walking away from something or driving to something. They might be stood still, they might be like stood still but far away from the original point, or, you know, things like that. So I'm reading through the website that you're supposed to be reading through, okay? A travel graph shows the distance travelled away from a set point against the time. So, you know, you have a graph, the distance column, like that shows you how far away. So this one's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're standing 6 metres away and they haven't moved. This allows us to identify the speed at which they travelled, because remember, speed is distance divided by time. We talked about that the other day. Points at which they were stationary, not moving. So if it's a flat line, they're not moving. And when they are returning to the starting point. So the starting point is always along the x-axis, so that's when the distance is 0. It's important to be able to identify the following types of movement on a distance time graph. So this one, they are literally stood still 6 metres away. As the distance is not changing, the horizontal line indicates a stationary period, so we're stood still. If it's just a straight line going up, so not like a horizontal straight line, but going up, or it could be going down. If it's going up and it's straight, so it's not curvy like the one below, that means it's moving with a constant speed. So we're not speeding up, slowing down, we're traveling with the same speed the whole time, like 30 k's an hour or something. Looking at the graph, you can see that the green one's a lot steeper. So the steeper it is, the faster it's going. And you can actually calculate the speed yourself by figuring out how far it travelled divided by the time. So this one, if I count up for the green one, it went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines, and went across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So its distance was 10, its time was 5, so 10 divided by 5 is 2, so it's like 2 kilometers an hour or something. If it's a curved line like this one, and it starts off really steep, which means it's going really quickly at start, and then it kind of slopes off, it's like it's slowing down. We haven't returned to where we started, but, you know, it's like we're taking off at the traffic light. Oh no, we're speeding up along the highway. We're speeding really quickly along the highway, and then we slow down for some traffic lights and we stop. This one's getting steeper, so we're speeding up. So this is more like if we were at the traffic lights and we're like, yeah, that's exactly that. That's the sound that graph makes. Whereas this graph is that was terrible. You're more likely to get graphs like this, okay? So this one tells you that at 8 o'clock they left home, and they travelled away at a certain speed, and at 9 o'clock they kind of stopped for a bit, and they stopped for half an hour, I'd say, because that's halfway between 9 and 10. And then at 9:30, so it's halfway between 9 and 10, they took off again, and they went with the same speed as A. I think we're going up the same speed, almost, not quite. They went up a bit steeper than A, and we stopped at about 11 a.m, and we stopped for a full hour, and then we drove back home. Like, we came back to the start. So the further you are up the graph, the further you are away from where you started. So if you come back to the bottom, that means you're back to the start. So if we actually have a look at this and answer these questions, what is happening in the section of the journey marked A? We're travelling away at a speed of, well, we travelled 3 miles and we did in 1 hour, so it's 3 miles per hour. What can I say about section B? Well, they were stopped. What speed are they travelling at in section C? Now, section C, they went from 3 miles away to 8 miles away, so they travelled 5 miles. And it took them an hour and a half. So that's 5 divided by 1.5, because an hour and a half is 1.5. So 5 divided by 1.5 on my calculator, that's 3.33 miles per hour. You'll get better questions on the maths-based task or textbook work. Describe what's happening in section D while we've stopped. And what speed are they travelling at in section E? Well, we were 8 miles away and we've ended up at 0 miles away. So we've travelled 8 miles to get back home. We did it in 1 hour, so we were travelling at 8 miles an hour. Excellent, excellent. What distance is travelled overall? Well, They travelled away for 8 miles total, and then they came back 8 miles, so they travelled 16 miles overall. Thank you very much.